Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. My name is John, and I'm here to do a brand new end of the year presentation. And this one's a little bit different. There's a lot of YouTubers out there putting out their end of the year lists and their top 10s, their best, their worst, their surprising, their most disappointments. Well, I've decided to come up with a few extra lists this year for you guys. One that I haven't seen out on YouTube, that someone has a top 10 of these movies. And that top 10 is the most top 10 best streamers of 2025. So what do I mean by streamers? Well, most likely these movies did not have a theatrical release. Now I will say, I'm already breaking my own rules, but some of these may have had very limited theatrical releases, and I didn't know they were in the theater at all, or they weren't in the theater in my area, or they may have had a very limited time in the theater and then put straight to a streaming station. We have streamers that are on Max, streamers that are on Paramount Plus, streamers that are on Shudder, streamers that are on Netflix, and of course, any streamer that comes to pay-per-view that didn't have a theatrical release are considered for this list. Now, you're not going to see big movie names like Sinners, Weapons, which those two seem to be on everyone's list this year. I kept watching people's videos saying, where's Sinners going to be on their list? And you're not going to see big names like that. But you might find this list of a value for you, because I probably watched over 50 brand new streamers last year, and I came up with 10 of them that I think are the best. And most of them received good burgers, which most of my streamers end up with basic burgers or veggie burgers, but these are mostly good burgers. Now, a few basic burgers ended up in here because they even stand out among the basics. And like all top 10 lists, this list is subjective. I'd like to hear in the comments what you thought were good streamers in 2025. Or if you don't happen to recognize or agree with my list, put your list in the comments. So with no further ado, let's get into the top 10 streamers of 2025. Coming in at number 10, released in March of 2025, Popeye the Slayer Man.
He doesn't take kindly to visitors stopping at his doorstep.
If she's just doing some school project, then why won't she just pick the phone up?
This movie was directed by Robert Michael Ryan. It stars Jason Robert as the Sailor Man. The Sailor Man is hiding out in his spinach factory and then goes on a slasher rampage when college documentarians get into his space. So what stands out about this one as a streamer? Well, it was one of the best public domains of the year. Usually for me, I'm not a fan of public domain slashers. You know, where they take characters from way back in the day that are now have hit public domain and turn them into slasher killers. Well, I felt like Popeye was actually a good idea for a slasher. He's better than most of the Disney characters that they've already turned into slashers, i.e. Mickey Mouse, Winnie the Pooh, and Bambi. And I just think this Popeye, of all the Popeyes that were released in 25, and there was 3 of them, there was Popeye the Slayer Man, there was Popeye's Revenge, and then just Popeye. These movies, the Slayer Man was the best of all of them. I felt like it was the most well put together. It had the best characters in it. And it seemed, out of all of them, the least generic. And I felt like Popeye as a big, looming, large man fit well as a slasher. And they played into the Popeye tropes as well, with it being staged in a spinach factory. And he eats spinach. And the reason he went crazy is because he got some bad spinach. And this Popeye's design was the best of all the Popeyes. He was big, he was looming, and he was intense. And overall, there was some pretty decent kills. Coming in at number 9 for Best Streamers, released in December of 2025, Director's Cut.
What's your name, guy? They call me Mr. Director. You guys are so funny and also good looking.
This movie is directed by Don Capria. It stars Louis Lombardi as the director. Basic plot. An alternative rock band from New York travels to the deep woods of Pennsylvania to make a rock video. When the director of the video takes a different approach on the video and slices and dices each band member one at a time.
I love the energy in the room.
So what stands out about Director's Cut? Well, I think it was a cool, fun premise. And it was a slasher, but it had a different type of person as a slasher. Louis Lombardi, being this Uncle Buck meets high gear director combined, played a really neat part as a slasher. I felt like Louis Lombardi commanded the screen when he was funny and when he was scary. Another great thing that added to this streamer was there was lots of great music. After all, it was about an alternative band making music, and the songs presented that they played and sang in the movie were great. This movie also did well with the traditional spooks, horrors, bumps in the nights, all that stuff that you see in traditional slashers. And I enjoyed this one for all the wild twists and turns. And there were some pretty gory and gnarly kills at the same time. Just remember, this one was streaming on Shudder. Coming in at number 8, released in July of 2025 to Netflix, Xiam!
หมอได้ยินฉันสิ
Directed by Cope Kalijarek, stars Mark Suparat as Sign, or Sing. In a world succumbing to hunger, a Muay Thai fighter fights off zombies in a hospital to save his loved ones. So what stood out the most about this streamer on Netflix, Xiam, was the great zombie action. It was an apocalyptic zombie action that takes place in a hospital. And the fact that our main star is like this kung fu action hero fighter made for the action to be action-packed, full of gore, and fight scenes. Also, which was impressive about this one, was I found out after watching it that it was a foreign film, filmed in Korean, I believe, and it was auto-dubbed into English later. And believe it or not, despite all that, it was still quite a good film, and I enjoyed watching it. This one is still currently streaming on Netflix, so if you want to see a kung fu fighter in an apocalyptic zombie outbreak, check out Xiam. Coming in at number 7, released onto Shudder in September of 2025, House of Eden.
Selena? We could actually catch something for real.
I'm not cool with this anymore.
This movie was directed, written, and stars Chris Collins. It also is starring Selena Myers. In this movie, we have a ragtag group of video documentarians who travel to a house deep in the woods to have a Blair Witch Project meets the Carmichael Manor experience, filming ghosts along the way. So what stands out about House of Eden? This is another found footage film. It's a small cast, but the characters that were there, the 3 main characters, they had a great dynamic. Selena Myers stands out as Selena in her acting as being someone who can be scared and funny all at the same time. Selena was funny, adding things like a pop-up tent that she used in the woods to go to the bathroom. But this movie also had very scary parts, and for found footage, it wasn't extremely jumpy and shaky cam, which I liked in a found footage film. I also liked how these actors specifically seemed very natural and behaved the way young kids in this day and age would behave going on a trip filming spooky tales in the woods. This one is a good watch and is streaming on Shudder. Coming in at number 6, released in June of 2025, Fear Below.
Whoa, did you feel that?
What was it?
My team's not going in that river.
Hello to this, guys. Professional divers, scared of a fish.
A bull shark is not just any fish.
This movie was directed by Matthew Holmes, starring Arthur Angel and Hermione Cornfield as the divers. A team of divers in 1946 Australia are forced by gangster criminals to dive for lost gold in a river guarded by a fierce bull shark.
Are you a killer?
So what stood out about this movie as a streamer? Well, it was the best shark movie of 2025. I really enjoyed it. It had a different premise with, it being like a period piece set in 1946 Australia. And I thought it was different than the typical shark streamer movie. And I liked the characters. The performances were really good, especially by the protagonists, the divers. I also thought that this was the most fierce shark that was out this summer, as far as this shark was brutal and they really battled it in the end as compared to many of the shark movies where the shark just swims away or even smiles. And I like how the sharks and the criminals in this movie compete to terrorize our divers. This one is currently on pay-per-view and also on Hulu. Coming in at number 5, released in July of 2025 to Netflix, Brick.
You have no idea what's going on here, do you? We just need to try everything like...
Why us? Maybe there's a reason we're all here.
You're filming us?
There's another room.
This movie is directed by Philip Koch, starring Matthew Schweigenhofer. A couple whose apartment building is suddenly surrounded by a mysterious brick wall must work with the neighbors to find a way out. Well, this was another one that was in German, a foreign language, and auto-dubbed into English, and I could barely tell. So right then and there, it was a standout. But this was a good story, a fun original story, a movie that kind of has this disaster feeling along with an escape room feeling, along with like computerized and AI feeling as well.
What is this material? Hello?
Is there a black wall around your place too?
Yeah, man.
Maybe it's like some kind of twisted escape room.
I like how the group of characters have to work their way down instead of up, like in Poseidon Adventure, trying to escape this building and figure out the mysterious brick wall. And the brick wall in this movie is quite intriguing and mysterious, and the design of it is really neat. It seemed impenetrable in parts, even impenetrable to bullets. This movie was exciting, it kept me intrigued the whole time, and I liked watching them travel from apartment to apartment, working their way out. It's currently still streaming on Netflix. Coming in at number 4, released in November 2025 to Netflix, Frankenstein.
And I saw it. Your name. Victor Frankenstein.
This movie is directed by Guillermo del Toro. It's starring Mia Goth. A new remake of Frankenstein set in the mid-1800s. Dr. Frankenstein is obsessed with overcoming death, then creates a creature who he thought he killed in his tower, but then escapes, and he finds him on a ship.
Now, run.
Well, this is another one that was put together well. It did have a very limited theatrical release, but it primarily is a streamer. And I also, like I said about Sinners, hope that this one gets noticed by the Academy Awards. I feel like Netflix probably should have given this one a full release considering how great of a project it turned out being. Also carrying stars like Mia Goth, who she was one of the best parts of this film. When she was present on the screen, I was very captivated. But I also liked how the story was told in chapters where we get Dr. Frankenstein's version of the story first, followed by the creature's version of the story. This one had great action, great cinematography, great acting, great characters. Of course, it's a story been told before, but this version is very notably done quite well, and of course is still streaming on Netflix. Coming in at number 3, released to HBO Max in March of 2025, The Parenting.
I have to let the dogs out.
What dogs?
Frick, frack, and fuck if I know. Sorry, the F-bomb. That's not me.
I have been here in the house with everyone for a day, and it feels like a year.
Excuse me.
This movie was directed by Craig Johnson. It is starring Lisa Kudrow. Basic plotline: a young gay couple books a getaway weekend to invite their parents to meet each other, but then they get caught up in a haunted house with possessed people and crazy witches. The horror comedy was a perfect blend of The Craft meets The Parents. There's nothing like having a fun horror comedy come to streaming on Max that was reminiscent of comedies from the 80s and 90s. In an era where it seems like comedy is dead, this one was highly engaging and a fun watch. And since it was a horror comedy and had that spooky element of witches and possessed people and curses and all that,
Set me free, why don't you, babe? Get out my life, why don't you, babe? 'Cause you don't really love me. You just keep me hanging on.
and the reason why this one is so high on the list, it has a real high rewatchability factor for me. There was just so much comedy involved in this, and Lisa Kudrow, who is famous for her comedy back in the 90s for being on Friends and movies like Analyze That, brought her comedy back again. But there was a big cast, including the parents and the kids, and even some possessed puppies, which made this one a fun watch. I'm sure it's still streaming on Max and is worth your checking out. Coming in at number 2, released in May of 2025 to pay-per-view, It Feeds!
These things. What kind of things?
There is something attached to that girl. Something terrible. But we don't know these people. We can't trust them.
Mom, I'm seeing it.
This movie is directed by Chad Archibald. It's starring Ashley Greene. A clairvoyant therapist confronts her own personal demons while trying to save a young girl who believes a malevolent entity is feeding on her. While this one was very scary, very disturbing, very intriguing, it reminded me of one of my favorite TV shows from back in the early 2000s starring Patricia Arquette called The Medium. And since our main character was a medium and explored these demons through a medium way, this movie was put together quite well. The acting was done quite well as well. Ashley Greene really came back this year in a couple movies. She was also in The Ritual. I thought this one also had great special effects, and it really had me unnerved in scenes. It was very scary the first time I watched it. This one now is also streaming on Hulu. Coming in at number 1, released on Shudder in May of 2025, The Surrender!
I thought the end would be different somehow. Okay.
This movie is directed by Julia Max. It is starring Colby Minifie. Basic plot: when the family patriarch dies, a grieving mother and daughter risk their lives to perform a brutal resurrection ritual to bring him back from the dead. So this one stands out to me for multiple reasons. One, because again, like some of the movies that made my top 10 list of the year, tied to my personal experiences throughout the year. Also, it was released the same weekend of giant theatrical release, Bring Her Back. And I saw those movies within the same weekend and felt like I was more intrigued and scared by The Surrender as compared to Bring Her Back. This movie was extremely unsettling as well, as I learned to see how grieving characters can do things out of desperation trying to bring their loved ones back. This one didn't shy away from the gore either. It had some quite intense, gory scenes. It also was reminiscent of movies like Insidious and The Craft. But as I had shared that my father had passed away of cancer, this movie stars a patriarch that passes away of cancer as well. But what really tied it home to me was I was one of the primary caregivers for my dad in his last 3 weeks. And after I had watched The Surrender, I remember watching the scenes where the young girl would inject the dad with morphine and thinking, oh my gosh, how scary and intense that would be to do that for a loved one. Not knowing at the time that that exact scenario was going to be in my short future. Now I'm due to rewatch The Surrender again because I wasn't able to rewatch it in October. But at the time, I was highly impressed with The Surrender, not only it being one of the most scariest movies of the year, but also the most intriguing, disturbing, and it also blended even some comical moments as well.
Have you been smoking?
Have you been drinking?
This one is streaming on Shudder, and I will be rewatching it soon, and I highly recommend it as a watch because it's at the top of the list. This was the best streamer of the year. Well, that's it. We've hit them all. Hopefully there were some gems in here that you guys can get to watch that maybe you didn't hear of. Just so you know, I have full reviews on each one of these movies, so if you want to check out my full thoughts, visit my channel. I will put links in the description for you guys. And don't forget to please like, subscribe, tap that notification bell if you want more horror content, top 10 lists, and death rankings from Johnny Goodburger's Reviews. This is Johnny, signing off.